Alright, episode 30, Call to Free. Welcome everybody. If you follow the stream, I took a week break, I needed it. Now we get back into it. If you follow these on YouTube, no idea when you see it. Let's start with a quick plug. I've mentioned the lack of atomic nodes in Maya, in vanilla Maya many times. And I will stay true to, on the stream we only use the stuff that we make, but if you cannot write C++ or you want to learn more about it, or you just want some good Maya math nodes, Sergey finally released version 1 of his Maya math nodes. This is his GitHub, so it's Sergey-K on GitHub, and the repo is Maya math nodes. I highly recommend Sergey's work. I don't know, he's in chat right now. I don't know if you have binaries on, Sergey, but the CMake and the sources and all of that should get you a pretty trivial build. It's MIT, so I'm sure people will start circulating the binaries as well. Otherwise, you get the instructions for the build here. It's pretty trivial. So yeah, that's that. Atomic Maya nodes for, atomic math nodes for Maya. Finally out in the wild again. Like these nodes get written by somebody once in a while. I've had some out for a while as well. It's pretty weird that they're still not in vanilla Maya, but Sergey is coming to the rescue for the next few years, I guess. All right, so with that said and done, we want to finish this rig, definitely, possibly, probably not just today, but, and in our list of things to do, we say that we have to duplicate the leg. The skinning will be absolutely minimal, so not really concerned. We need to finish the guiding, de-guiding. We might extend the components a little bit if need be, but other than that, we seem to be in a pretty decent place. The guide works. We had a script that will redo the connections for us. So I reckon that we get that script in final working condition and take it from there, so that we can finally properly de-guide swap to check things as well as the guide. So let me get the Maya doco programming guide. Yeah, sure. I don't think we need anything right away, but who knows. And I probably won't need mischief for this. Now let's keep it around. Now I spent literally 5 or 10 minutes before the stream. This is PyCharm in presentation mode because it constantly gets asked. Starting from the original scripts we had, they are available on my GitHub in Didactic. And I started from 27, which was the last day we did some scripting in, duplicated into day 30. And literally all I've done insofar is added some documentation and split a couple generators out. So this was there already. It was what was iterating the selection. This is what gets as a container. And the part that's been split out is this iterator that can get an object generator from, we're going to pass it this one, have a variable suffix filter, and get us our object. So I reckon we clean this up, we make sure it works, and we make sure that we have some parameters for delete objs, which right now is a constant, is a global constant in the file, so that we can probably turn it into a Maya plugin, which shouldn't take too long given how we've laid out things. Now, hopefully some scripting is to your liking, because that's what we gotta do today. The method separators. This is brutal on the encoding. Don't want method separators. Why are they back on? Okay. So I don't even know if you can see them for the encoding. There's very, very tiny thin lines between the various functions and methods in a class and stuff like that. So what we got here? We got our main, this component container comes from our new iterator, and we pass it. Notice that this is a generator function, but we pass the generator. We don't call it. That's an invocation. We pass the generator that we want this one to use. Another approach would have been to filter this generator, but we're not going to go that far. So if delete objects, then we are printing a call, delete guide hierarchy from key objects. So we will want to isolate that, but I reckon the next step is tool panel MOBA. So this was getting us the tool parameters. This is getting the key objects from the container, which is good as it stands. The delete object should actually be after the swap. So let's start getting that out of the way. And yeah, well, nah, it was probably fine where it was, because this is the beginning of our main. So we are extracting the tool parameters. That is fine as it is. Now we're getting the num elements. So this is getting us the actual object itself. We're storing handles just for safety. This is so close in line. There's no possibilities for deletion in between that. We could probably use M objects right away, but it doesn't matter all that much. Getting the plug, evaluate num elements, tool panels. So we're forming a couple lists. Trigger plug from subplug. So this is in pretty decent shape as it is. And what we're doing here is the connect disconnect stuff. This kind of belongs in the main as it is. So I don't think that we really want to extract these any further. The thing that we could be doing is figure out if we are in guide mode or if we are in control mode. And based on that, choose to swap or not. But did I just fix myself out of a stream before these? So there's not a lot of work that I want to do here. Tracker plug dictionary, tool panel couples, tracker plug dictionary. Yeah, this is all fine. Do nothing pass, obviously. I think we have all the behaviors. We didn't really have a genuine swap to test these. I think we put together an artificial one and that seemed fine. Yeah, it looks like this is good as is. So we'll do want, however, to check the behavior of it. So without running it, this is connected and it's affecting everything, and we should be able to see an effect on this one. After we run it with something selected, anything from the leg should do. Then these should now have no effect. The component has been guided, all the plugs have been swapped, and this has been guided in place, which is great. So the response we are after in this case, the thing that we need to fix in our rig, if you want, is when we were doing this, for the sake of making guiding easy, we decided to have the FK following the IK so that we can just guide the IK and be done with it while we're in guide mode. Oh yeah, and I've also locked the access. Man, we've been too diligent. So we want to make sure that that is taken care of. And that is probably going to be coming. Sorry, I've been away from the string for a little bit, so I am finding my bearings now. My expectation is that what we are doing, yes, is taking from the TB start. So this is being affected by the IK. I betcha. Yes. So we're taking from the IK, which means that we're already doing that, are we? The translate is already coming from the config. Only the rotate should be disconnected, so we really have scripted ourselves out of a job here, have we? So that is disconnected. Now this doesn't seem to get disconnected. So we do need to look at that. Because in theory, if we disconnect these, then that's for the tibia only. So let's look at the first buffer. This should only be, like, this should be left. Okay, so FK01 buffer. So if we do that and that, the expectation is that now my FK is isolated from the IK. So it should be that simple. That means that same as we have leg tool parameters. Oh, that is all wacky. Let global tool parameters. No, it's not all wacky. It's actually good. So I was selecting the leg, fair enough. Yes. So I will need to select something that is actually in the leg. That will make sense. Run that and see what happens. Nothing meaningful there. So let's try from the control. There you go. Leg guided heat matrix. Damn, we have scripted ourselves out of a job for real. Now the only thing that this is not doing, I guess, because that was all working fine. So our leg swap is already, sorry, our guide swap is already working. The only thing it's not doing is it seems not to work when I select the guide element. And if we, so convenient thing of the way we've been doing things is if you're not guiding, you can just hide the guide layer, this hierarchy item here, and hide the whole guide. If you're guiding and you don't want to see all the rest of the crap, you can hide the form and control, and all you see is the guide. So that's a pretty positive quality of the way we've been dividing work. And after swapping and then deleting the guide, the expectation is that our component will be truly de-guided. So the only thing we're not doing is when this is selected, it's not operating, which means that we want to fix that. And that is probably going to be in, So this is iterating the containers. So for each object selected, oh, tell you what, I bet you, yes, the script is again not at fault. We simply have not containered the guide. So if we take the guide and move it to the leg container, and I don't know if you can see with the capture resolution and everything, but these had no box icon there. So it means they were in container. Now they are. Yep, and it works. Most uneventful stream ever, because everything is working. Never trust things that seem to just work, but in this case, what can you do? So if we're not crossing like components, my expectation is, and this is literally the scene loaded up. So let me save the reloadable, but I don't believe we'll need it. Now with delete objects true happening after what's going on in here, I would expect a swap and a delete. So if I select something in the leg and something in the leg global, and if all due diligences happen, I would expect running these. So it's messed with the IK a bit. It's moving a buffer around, so we need to fix that, but those are component issues. The FK is now decoupled. Yeah, this is an issue with the expression itself. Well, not with the expression, but with the input it's getting. But we are pretty close. Okay. Let us figure that out. What is going on there? So what was going on is that this was being moved to the stratosphere. And we also have to fix the component because it's now, it seems to always be following, which is not what we want, but it's okay. We can fix that. That is fine. So those connections have been reinstated. Okay, finally we have something that we can look at. So this is our position control for the hip, and I bet you that what is going on is the same that we've had before, where the buffer is receiving from an input. So that is for the guide. Now for the IK, like global, that's fine. The expression must be receiving something that in the swap and delete gets blasted away, so we want to fix that. Now our leg should be somewhere around here. So are the containers pretty stable now? No problems with the evaluation, speed, heat, throwing things in the container. Like the last time I tested that formally was in 2016. I've read posts around the internet, like these myths that last forever. People talking about issues with containers that date back to 2014, like the whole black boxing thing where you basically couldn't unblack box a container. As far as I know, and as far as I tested from 2016 on, they're in pretty decent shape. But you are gonna deal with some quirks and glitches. 2017, if you use them in a very limited capacity, like just for encapsulation and publishing the way I show here, I reckon they're fine. I can't say I've ever noticed the slowdown. There might be some callbacks that get far more often than might have a little bit of overhead, but I seriously doubt they will kick in parallel mode. The test is pretty easy actually, because you can get the whole rig down container, then you could remove the containers entirely and like empty them, and nothing, because they don't provide namespaces or anything, nothing at all will happen to the rig. So they're super trivial to get rid of if you use them just for encapsulation, if you don't use their managed output ports and stuff like that. So do it both times and profile it, which is what I did when I was testing them, and I had no issues with them. Now, I need to find that IK node. Where have I put that expression? What is going on here? I might not have it at all. Ah, there you go. So these should be all pinned, and this is all being received by the expression. We don't care for the time being in there, as in it could go either way, like we always want to evaluate this one anyway. Leg config parameters, femur and tibia length, leg guide. So I wonder if this is what is messing us up. If the expression is erroring, and this is sort of what I was saying in the functional videos that I still have to release, when debugging, narrow it down to the simplest possible thing. I have a hunch, because this is erroring, something going into it is rotten. So the femur length and tibia length are the only two things other than time, which is just there to force evaluation every frame, affecting these. Actually, I'm lying. Clamp distance is having an effect as well, but that what is it receiving from? Okay. So it seems that this graph has actually lost some of our stuff. Also, Maya, as usual, has decided to teleport anything that is not pinned down. So none of these seems to be receiving from the guide. So unless we have an odd cycle, which we don't seem to have, it doesn't make sense that the guide will mess with us, unless there's an order of deletion kind of thing where, because we're deleting two things in a certain order, then, you know, one messes up the other. So I suspect that that is unlikely. That is not the case. So sure, teleport everything away from me. I love it when you do it. I will rearrange my graph multiple times, Maya. It's perfectly okay. I love doing this. Now, everything is pinned. Is this going out to anything interesting? I thought there would be more scripting and less debugging, but we seem to have, to some extent, worked ourselves, scripted ourselves out of a job, and we seem to have a component to fix. Okay. So this should be everything pinned and available, and these we can move here. So this is where guidable stuff comes from. It's still in the sketch. We'll need to supplant these with proper component parameters. I think we have done that. I'm gonna leave that note in. So this is our script. Let's do just the leg global. So that seems legit. leg global has the effect we want. We just have to fix the IKFK thingy. And the top is moving correctly. Now, so that's re-guided. If I remove the guide, there you go. So it's definitely got something to do with just their leg. And I reckon that what is going on is that we're losing these config parameters entirely, so there is nothing feeding there. Now we say that that config belongs to the leg component. Yes, that is our problem. We were losing the config that the guide was basically configuring. And is it really going to be that simple? It apparently really is going to be that simple. Okay. Go us. Yes, I am recording. So, what do you know? Our script works. We are de-guiding the thing. I have to admit, this bothers me a little bit. And I hope that people find it useful, but occasionally, like, you gotta go through the debug stages. Well, frequently, in fact. Especially if you're running vanilla Maya everything. So, the script works. We can guide de-guide. The GodNode component does not or should not have any meaningful swaps, I believe. So let me unhide that. We could write a couple scripts, and we might at some point. They just toggle things on and off and stuff like that. It's really easy to instrument rigs that are formed this way. It will make things a lot easier. And this is our master graph, and it's been brutalized by the delete undelete thingy. So let's actually take the latest scene and perform the same fix. Two parameters. Oh, there you go. It was already fixed in that one. This is our, let's say, our master scene. 21 and 3. Let's make sure. Guide tweaks. Yeah, reloadable is just that. Did you save? No, I didn't save that one. Reloadable is disposable. Now we want to save these as reloadable as well. Yes, I would like to replace it, please. So my expectation is this has the deform hidden, that this one would have worked all along. Yep. So oh, that is cool actually. So our reloadable was messed up. Now the only thing this doesn't have that are reloadable that I just overwrote had. Yes, it is. This is a refresh issue, but that's why you have function curves in. Will be the FKIK stuff. So right now in this scene, the FK is still riding on the IK. So let's fix that. And the reason for that will be, and that will be, if not the last of it, it will get us pretty close. Now, obviously, that is now all gone. All the adjustments to the graph. Maybe saving that reloadable, like overwriting that reloadable wasn't the best of ideas, but what can you do? Hindsight, always 2020. Most of the times 2020. So this is not in there. I would like just the one, please, Maya. Thank you. Sorry for the silence, just I don't want this to take 2 hours, and I was trying to figure out Lego got hit input. So once this is deleted, this should go away. Need pause buffer. Okay, so this is all guide stuff, which is cool. What I want to inspect is actually these two. Guided heat matrix. Now, yeah, that's my daughter. I don't know what my wife is doing, but it must be funny. All right, again, I should not stay silent for this long, but let us do these once and for all. That's it. Yeah, that's the one from before. So the thing that changes that before in the reloadable, I have probably noticed these two not being connected to the tool parameters, which is what gets us the swap. I expect. So these two, do they go into the tool parameters with the right attributes? That is the question. Oh boy. Tell me this is not one of those femur length, hip offset, origin. We'll have to test it, because I remember we had done a fair chunk of cleaning, and I hope that it wasn't on the reloadable, then not saved somewhere else. But we'll figure it out. So guided with no origin. Guided with no origin should get us a disconnect. That is our expectation. Rotate is already in there. Let's save that. These are not being container, but they are now. So that's good. There was a mix of fixes apparently. Some was in reloadable, some was in this one, who knows. But we should get there pretty quick. So now, yes, we are good, I reckon. This should still have an effect. So let's remove that as well. Now, the only thing that's going on that is not good, I reckon, beside the fact that these don't have your master graph open when you do this kind of stuff, because it'll be all kind of messed up. The only thing that is going on that we do not like is that we use these to guide stuff, and we make sure that the FK follows the IK with the intent of keeping things. So let's make sure that if I de-guide it, the FK doesn't pop back to some odd place. No, it doesn't. We're good, actually. We have been practically good all along. So if I do that, and do we have... No, we don't. Let's get our animation parameters. Yeah, our blend seems to be working fine as well. The foot is receiving that blend. It's curvilinear as well, probably. So, not too bad. What is left to do? Debugging, folks. Always exciting. What is left to do is figuring out. So that is still on the control. That is the IK. So it's still good. All we want to do is actually show the deformers and run the same thing again. Repetition. Do the same thing many times and expect the same results. If you don't, that's insanity. As in, you will have a hard time debugging stuff. So if I do that and that, I reckon the next step will be fixing the foot component, which seemed to have an odd blending. And then we need to add an FK offset. All in all, not much exciting happened. Wow, I take that back. So this is actually working as well. So we're already doing the blending with the rotation and the translation set as length only. Chat, give me a hand. It seems that we have done a lot more than I thought we did. What do we need to do? We've been too good. So the next thing will be introducing an FK offset. Sorry, an FK ankle, so that we can... Okay, let's talk about that for a second. I'm gonna keep the guide live as is because that's good. Now a problem you might have right now, it's riding on the IK, but that's fine. In fact, I expect that even in guided mode we retain full functionality. There's no pops, so all our numbers are correct, which is very good, because those can be a nightmare to fix. So what is going on here is that in our blend, which is coming from the leg, and then it needs another leg. Yeah, it does need another leg, but I reckon we want to finish the component at this point. Let's reduce that. Let's reduce that. So what is going on here is that the link between the foot and the leg, as it is now, does not receive an FK-AK blend. What we do want is for this offset between the foot and everything else to be preserved. Now, right now, I believe that... Actually, not even that, which is good. I believe that it just doesn't receive any rotation when it's in FK mode. Now, will it receive one when it's in IK mode? That's important. Okay, so we have two things to do. Well, the same thing for FK and IK really. And I said, I'm sorry it took me 46 minutes to get to here. Like, to basically say everything is fine. We literally had to grab a previous scene because Reloadable was kind of messed up and reconnect a couple of things. But what can you do? So the only thing we need now is to introduce an offset between the foot and the leg so that it can preserve in FK as it's rotating. This transform relative to the FK can be preserved, and so that in IK rotating these will produce some effect. So not a super huge fan of that going down the ankle. It's what a lot of animators actually like. Maybe also profiling the component. It's to profile something, you need a fair chunk of animation on it. So if anything, I'll probably need to ask somebody once we get the rig with all the legs and the geometry bound. I might need to beg somebody to do me some animation because I won't have time for that. I haven't animated in many years. Okay. So let's get on to that. Now, we basically want one more control for the ankle. And we will look at that in the master graph. I could just duplicate one of these. And in fact, sorry, let me check one thing as well, because I am morphing the controls from the config parameters, which is alright. Does the IK still not have an effect once you deguide? The IK affects the FK now. Once you deguide, it will not. That way, when we guide, we only guide the IK and the FK will just follow around. I don't know if that's what you were asking to. But what I want now is an additional control here to basically inform the offset between the leg and the foot from the FK. Because if you just go to the foot and you're in FK, oftentimes, animation-wise, you might gimbal yourself pretty quickly in some extreme cases. That, or you have to keep changing rotation orders around and whatnot. The other thing is that the rotation for the IK will come from a word space thing. So instead of having to do weird things where guiding stage, we look at differences between the two and save them all of that, if you have some symmetry that you can rely on, it is going to make your life easier. So we do care for a buffer, we do care for a control, and we do care for a shape. We probably do not want that linked to anything, and it hasn't. So we're still gonna call these just numerically. Okay, we're finally doing something. 1 hour in or something like that. This gets auto-named. We want that to be in here. And could you please go to here somewhere? Is it right? Doesn't look super great. Oh no, it's actually correct. I take it back. So this is gonna be also something that needs to respect the IK part of the guide, but only the rotation. We want it, we desire for these to be word lines. So we could set everything up manually. And the animators will probably want these aligned to the foot, I guess, at least visually. But that is literally just the control. Well, they will probably also want it to rotate. No, because you're rotating the ankle. So visually we could align it to something else for sure, but it is not going to represent the foot tarsi. So we don't want to align it with tarsi. We don't want to mislead people into thinking it relates to that. It is an ankle offset, so you know, it'd be wise to shape it very differently from everything else, but you're probably looking at something like this shape wise. We'll figure that out. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you have to talk about with your animators. Until then, just guess your best. So we want it to be guided, and we would like it to align itself to the IK, same as the rest of our guide. We would also, if you don't mind, Maya, like it to be here without that shape, please. Thank you. I am afraid of graphing it. Okay. You insist on adding that shape. I did not ask for it, but it's okay. Have it your way. Now, where are these located? There they are. Let's summarily pin these somewhere. Where do we get these from for the rest of the guide? Do we have something coming in for that one that we can just use? I would imagine that we do. I would imagine that a rolled ankle is already providing us with what we need. And we only want the rotation in board space. So, does the toDelete actually, have we implemented toDelete to run the ports and delete the nodes? Because that would be important. I suspect we did. So, delete hierarchy. No, that just deletes. Okay, that's interesting. That's something that we need to add to the script, unless we have something else. Okay, that's very good. That gives us something to do finally. So we'll need a bunch of nodes to properly set these, because these was pretty trivial to set up. We had a straight up angle coming in that way. Now the IK, however, stops here, and it has no equivalent for that. This is coming from another component. So we'll need a couple of DG nodes, and our simple strategy goes a very long way. Deleting the DAG item here gets rid of a whole bunch of stuff, and it deguides, but DG nodes will not be paired to that, and that is why we have to delete message ports on our two parameters. So we're going to implement those. Do we have time for it? I say this will be a 1 hour and a half stream. So, first, let's get, we want this, which I imagine is going to be a rolled ankle. Rolled ankle will probably be there. I am so torn. Do we have animators in chat? What would you want these to be? So this is for the ankle, not for the foot. The foot gets another set of controls which are shared. They will blend between IK and FK. Would you want it to be aligned? And we can take care of the blend with offsets and all of that. Would you want it to be aligned word aligned the same way these will be? Which might kind of make things visually more consistent. Or would you expect it to be aligned like that to the actual foot? Please give me feedback. We could go either way. I'm inclined to say that to avoid confusion, it should be aligned to the ankle. Obviously, the icon, the actual manipulator, the shape will be shorter. Aligned to the word so that I can swing side to side neatly. All right. So the rolled ankle shouldn't have that offset, but we'll figure it out. As in, it should make our life a lot easier. So let's start from the easiest case. If I take the rolled ankle, do I already have a conversion? Can I rob? I do. Oh man, is this gonna be easy? I don't need to delete any DG nodes, possibly. Yeah, I hope I will have to. There should be at least 1 or 2 matrix modes or something like that. So let's swing that this way for a moment. And this is in word space, so all we want is to see if this does it. So the rolled ankle contains this thing, which is not too bad. Seems also okay. I was like, it's not what I expected. That's a yeah. So we do have something already coming in. Now we want this to be under the legal of K control. No dubs about it. Please parent. Now we also, however, want it to account for the offset, which is matrix mode. Now, do we already have that work done for us somewhere? Up vector, it's coming from the guy, we don't need to extend it. Hip word. The rolled ankle is only going into all those distances after it's been converted. So let's make triple sure of that. Chat, is it clear what I'm doing? Hopefully it is. All I'm trying to do here is get these in the space of that. Well, not trying, it's what I'm about to do. We've done it a million times. So that also seems fine. So we want a matrix mode. Mode matrix, I was about to use. Come on, get away. Hey, welcome. Someone was saying first time they caught the stream live. Welcome to the stream. This is where the magic happens. And fairly slow magic this time around. So we would like this word space in the word inverse of that, which means the word ankle. This is how I feel about it. Now, am I gonna be right or am I gonna be wrong? I hope I'm gonna be right. So should get the word inverse matrix of these. Already, are you playing that game, Maya? Or I have to expand and all again. Word inverse of that. Now that means I now expect these to be in the space of that, and this is a child of that. So if I if I decompose that into sure, it's the only possible input, but yeah, make me tell you. And now this rotate, where is it coming from? Oh, do we have a swap? Let rolled ankle, no we don't. Because that's just the hack from before. I was hoping I would have had a case for a swap. So rotate and translate. Always be careful with the decomposed matrix. I think I'm trying to think if it's the case, but anyway, there's no rotate order in here, so whatever you do, it always goes out in XYZ. But you shouldn't really have all that much of a problem because we only control buffers. Now, when we do a swap, What would be wise will be taking the source of this, but we don't really. Oh, we are kind of. Sorry, ignore that. Don't let it confuse you. I was thinking out loud and I was thinking silly thoughts. I suspect that there's not much else that we need to do with that. So is our guiding still works? Is it guiding that element as well now? It seems to be. Now our de-guiding, finally we have some work that we can do. Our de-guiding needs to swap those for nothing. So where do I put those? I gotta admit, so that's not the config that we're after. Guide to parameters. I gotta admit, it's pretty tough. Like a lot of these stuff, it's like these are the same first principles that I apply to my own tool set that you'll find in some workplaces. And doing it with just vanilla Maya when you're used to having it tooled up leads to some interesting stuff occasionally. So I would like to pin the law. Yeah, did not lose the rest. This is set to 1. So this is, why am I making it unnecessarily painful for myself? Guide, so we're good for all of that. All the 2 swaps are sequential, which is pretty important because we are relying on indices. The 2 delete. So we were actually being fairly diligent. So all of these nodes, the 2 delete is for these to be removed. All of these nodes will be staying around basically with our current script. So we do need to take care of it. Is there a way to extract the translation from a matrix beside decompose matrix? In Maya, I can't think of one. I know at the beginning of the stream I plugged Sergey's nodes, and I suspect, because we were talking about it, I suspect that he's done a row extract. So the last row of a matrix is the fastest way to get a point, which will be the translation expressed by that matrix. Vanilla Maya, decompose is the only thing I can think of. But I have demonstrated in the past that I'm not always a vanilla Maya expert. I have a sound enough, I guess. I have a good enough understanding of how it works to use it and to explain how you can read it. But as far as all the nooks and crannies, I do not know every single one of them. Vector product node set to point matrix multiplication. That yes, but that's a lot of float ops. The sanest way to do it is having nodes that extract the rows, because that's pretty much straight up mem copy inside the node. I don't know if Sergey is still around. But Sergey, did you do a row extract for matrices? Anyway, that tangent aside, so we have done that work. Now, because this is coming in like that, the swap should do the deed. We want to add it to delete, make sure it's gotten read off. We'll need to name this stuff as well. It's stupid, but it works. I use it all the time. Is there a reason to prefer it to decompose? Does a point matrix, because the rotation order doesn't matter when you're just extracting the translation. Sorry, I might as well explain that. Somebody was asking you know, if you just want the translation out of something, is there a way to do it without using a decompose? Now, I don't know what the cost of decompose is internally, so maybe this is a faster way, but you have a point matrix mode, which is not a bad idea, and that multiplies a point by a matrix. So what Ryan was saying in chat is what you can do is if you grab matrix and as your in point you give it 0, 0, 0, what you're basically getting will be the translation of the matrix. Now, yes, that will just get to that because it will multiply a 0 point by whatever translation that matrix is providing. These would have to make sure that that point transform respects the rotation and the scaling. So I would expect it to be quite a few ops. I mean, at a minimum, you would have to do the rotation transform, which is quite a few transcendentals. So that's, I reckon you're easily in the hundreds of cycles for these. And if this was written optimally, I mean, the node tax will still obscure that. The handles will cost you, but this also has less handles because it literally has one handle. So yeah, it will also calculate rotate scale shear even if you're only getting the translate. You mean for the point mode? I would expect it to. For this one, because it's separate plugs, I would expect it not to. I provide translation for matrix. Good man. So in the notes we plugged at the very beginning. If you have not been following since the beginning, Sergey-K, my math notes on GitHub. Go get him. So that was a very long diversion, but now we probably also want to container all of that stuff that we just added, and we'll definitely want to name it. And have I have not, that's okay. So that is all leg container. Good. Now my expectation is that if I select these and I run, am I deleting here? Sure. Let's run it. Come on. So RIK is affected. Our FK is being affected by nodes that are not being removed. That bothers me. I probably okay, sorry. I was yeah, don't be sorry for derailing. It's a necessary but somewhat boring stream, so some distraction I'm sure is fine. I haven't been streaming for a while. I needed to catch up to all of these stuff. Now, what bothers me is, beside the fact that Maya has decided to annihilate my graph, even if I've repopped the nodes where they are supposed to be, the good news is that if I do something like that, any nodes that were already graphed out should come into the right places, but possibly not pinned. So was that going out to the 2 swap? That's the question. Because if it's not, then that's why it's not working. Decompose matrix to swap. What have I done? So yes, the problem is idiocy. I wanted this one. I'm not sure how I made that mistake, but I made it. And that's why it was still aligning these to the word. Now, my expectation is I can move these around. This is not going to have an effect on the IK itself, but it will have it on the controls, which will rebuffer them. I don't know exactly what will happen to the foot. It doesn't matter. That's the next thing we got to fix. And now, if I select these two and deguide, I expect the IK works. The FK is still following, so it's not deguiding that correctly. Let's have a look at what is going on there. Or is it? It's hard to tell. No, it is. Sorry, I was letting myself be fooled by the visuals of this stuff. No, this is now correctly working in FK. Cool. Okay, we have done some actual work. So, going back here. Oh my. Now let's get rid of that for a moment. We are getting somewhere. So we have a couple of things we can do now. We can either tweak the script to actually finish cleaning things up. We definitely need to name these. To go over those parts, where we at? Yeah, we're 1 hour in. We still got about half an hour. So what I was saying, we can tweak the script to take care of those delete nodes and finish that, or we could work on the foot component, leave those trailing for now, and try and finish the foot component alignment. Does chat have a vote? Does chat have a preference? So this one is Lego. This is a guide node, no doubt about it, and it is the global encode in FKO2 space. Massive name, but we don't care. And this is the same thing, but in SRT version. They should be both container, and they are, and that is where we say chat foot component or script. I might go for script if nobody expresses an opinion. So 2 parameters. Now, do I want Maya to brutalize my graph? Sure, at a depth of 1. Let's live dangerously. Now, these are all in the 2 swap. And these are just shapes, so I mean, I do kind of care for them because they're the FK control shapes. And I'm driving their control points. They're getting 2 swap for nothing, which is correct. Finish the script. Yeah, both might be tough to do. I reckon we can have a go at the script. So these all seems in okay order. Our name should be alright now. Because the guide gets deleted and this master graph is mostly what we want for controls. Now, if Maya was a sane application, I'd be able to copy and paste a bunch of stuff from here, going here, sorry, copy from there, going here, paste, and it will know that I'm pasting a view. Instead, because I have duplicate, if I want to duplicate something, I don't need copy and paste to be a crappy duplicate. But rant aside, it's not going to do that, so we kind of have to abuse our master view a little bit while doing this work. Now, what we want that script to have as added functionality is iterate over the 2 delete ports, fetch whatever is in. We could add an additional filter, such as look that guide is in the name, and delete those nodes. Now, the order of operations I would expect is, because matrix mode and stuff like that can mess things up, whereas DAG nodes are likely to keep their values. If you remember, an issue we had before was that with something like this, because it was we were deleting an input, which was what we wanted to do. It was kneeling out this port, and it was introducing an ID matrix, and it was scrambling all of our transforms. So we had to go through a panel, an additional panel, to make sure that that will be preserved. And that is just a matter of how these attributes are configured, so custom nodes can not suffer from that problem. So the order of things, to me, seems, the logical order of things seems to be, first we blast away the DG nodes. They should all reach something that preserves their value. Then, well, first we swap the plugs, and that should insulate us from a lot of problems. Then we blast away the DG nodes, so that what's left that might still be going somewhere, and at that point the swap should have removed all those influences anyway. But leftovers, if there are any, you know, are going to be cached in some part of the DAG, and then we can blast away the DAG. That is my take. Right. So we should already have something that finds the plug called toSwap. So this is taking care of the swap. Do I need separate stages? Who knows? Won't hurt. Now, we're finding it very early on, so we're actually to plug evaluate element count. We do need the MF DAG, and if to swap, then we do that. Delete objects. Like, these will need to redo. I'm not super fond of these delete guy hierarchy from key objects. It's like, it's kind of crummy. It's alright for now. Key objects from containers. So this is actually pretty bad-ish, because anyway, doesn't matter. So if delete objects, we do that. That seems reasonable, and so that goes after, and then delete DG nodes. Sure, we're not gonna be picky about this just yet. So delete objects, I guess. If we delete DG nodes, we want to delete both. Do we need to? Nah, we don't. We can do it one. If do swap, so this should probably be in there. Because the key objects come from before. So this is just a validation check. We're still in there. We're not iterating any further. That's okay. So yeah, I reckon we can do it. Let's have a look. A little bit of copy and paste magic. So my assumption is that we can get that. We can get and evaluate new elements. We can do the same thing we do here. Now they should all be single connections. Do swap plug. Now what I want is that getting by physical index, the way we're doing things. Should always, in this case, should always have the way we form things, should always connect, should always have a connection, but who knows? I don't remember. I never remember this stuff. I think the physical index is the one that's already been compacted, And the way we form that message attribute should not have sparsity. It might have sparsity actually. Anyway, so that will get us each thingy. Then we want if unplug is destination, that is a member, it's not a method. Then for each plug that has a destination, there can only be one source. So we should be able to do unplug. It should never be null either. So we could chain something like that and go unplug dot source dot node. That will get us the node. Let's try. Actually, you know what? I was debating whether I wanted to do both, and yes, I want to split it at the very least for testing sake. So we're not deleting yet, we're just setting that stuff for now. Let's have a quick look at MFN dependency node. Source node dot name should get me what I want, and in this case is name. Yes, please. So, in example, all I want is diagnostics. So having those globals is probably good. That gives us some control. I don't want to do the swap, but I would very much like you to please figure out the rest. MFN dependency node, is there a typo? There must be a typo. Dependency. So that is getting us everything that we expect. So for the record, what we're trying to do here is if you do swap, you know, and nothing else, you just swapped in and out of your guide. So you can tweak, you can test, and so on. If you do swap and then delete, you basically de-guided, completely de-guided your component. Now, is this too good to be true? So we will want all of them true. Let's be brave. We still need to do the deletion here. I expect the change to be reflected, yes. And in our delete, we're using the command, I believe, for the sake of getting free undo. We are going to be lazy and do that. So, and I think we're using the get a path to, yes. We want, so we want it as a string, so it's onto no auto completion. I need to fix that. I have it in another project. I finally got everything to work. Get a path to our source node, then we get the full path name for it, and then kind of silly name, but whatever, we're okay for now. So what we're doing here, it all seems legit. Taking bets, will it blend? Chris, I don't know if you watch my streams or if you watch my videos. auto reload for the next version will be outstanding, and I know you to be an outstanding guys. Delete, delete, delete. Woolly blend. Let's save that and let's go to some other graph window so that Maya does not annihilate everything I do. So I would expect all of this stuff to be gone. Then if it does, and if everything is good, we know we are in a good place. We have all the flags on. We also have an ability to resize windows when we don't want to. Do the God node as well, see what happens? Sure. Object is incompatible with this method, okay. It would have been too good, but I'm clearly doing get a path to source node. Huh. I would have expected that to work. Alright. So that would have done the swap. And then for one of the components, yeah, God knows what happened there. Let's reopen that. Good thing we saved. Like we're close. We're so close we can practically smell it. Oh, so sure. Keep brutalizing my graphs. I don't mind. Why? Why these? Anyway. So I would expect a bunch of nodes to disappear from this. Now, let's not swap. And let's not delete anything. And let's do a little bit of print debugging. Is it failing at some specific point? What? Incompatible with this method. I'm clearly doing something stupid here. Get a path to source node, element plug. Is it this one? No, this one is fine. So either it's not chaining. Is this source? Okay, so I would have, like, we attached the dependency node before and that was fine. Get a path to source node. That should take an M object. Unless I've been doing something silly, and we'll figure it out. So that's an M object. So maybe full path name, like it doesn't like us to inline that, but we did it elsewhere. Object is incompatible with this method. So okay. So that is your problem, Maya, isn't it? Are things connected to the guaranteed to be diagnosed? Oh, good God, thank you. I am an idiot. They are mostly diginodes, in fact. That's our entire discriminant. I am a complete idiot. Thank you. So, that is a very good point. If, in case we have something, some DAG object that is not part of the guide and is not going to get auto-deleted by that, so we'll want to deal with a case. Has a fan, what is it, KDAG, I believe. Otherwise, and we'll put a random locator and make sure that that gets deleted. Thank you, Ryan. I'm a complete idiot. Otherwise, the full name should be right, actually. We're not namespacing yet, so And that will probably get the full name anyway. What a silly thing. I was using the mdag path in the other one exactly so that it will fail on non-dag nodes. And then idiocy ensued. Now, MFM dependency nodes, source nodes should be share. And is these... No. Sorry, C++ mode. Now, let us get a random cruddy node like that. Almost there. Almost there. That is the two parameters. So, I would like you to also delete my random nodes for me. No message. Is this showing me all of the to delete? We're also dealing with the empty ones by not doing anything meaningful, so we should be okay. And at this point, I only kdag. So it's something else. It's mfn.kdag node. There you go. So we're getting everything we asked for Christmas. That is very good. Now, nope. Sorry, this is the slow and boring part, but I do not know what to say to what I'm doing. I'm typing path to node. All I'm doing is just making sure that they both yield the same to the same string, that we can have a couple extra checks. This is probably highly redundant, but when you're doing deletion, if you have a couple of safety points and entry points. Now these, so my expectation is that if I select everything, a bunch of things here and there, I will get a relatively... So this is getting us all from the leg global. We're already doing the reduction. Is something... What? What is going on here? So it's kind of funny, like what it's doing with the buffer. New Maya bug, whatever. So we might need to do some reduction of our loop. But it's probably just visiting stuff twice. And if it visits it the second time, we'll find it deleted by the previous pass. My concern here, if you will, is that because we're getting the same stuff twice, which is normal for the multi-selection we're doing, before we were populating dictionaries instead of running like that. So that population will take care of duplicity. When we were encountering a component a second time, it would have already been found. So it will be replaced inside the same key and you will get no duplicity. It wouldn't be an issue. Now here, because we're just visiting stuff with iterators, if we select twice something from the same component like that, we get twice the log because we're going over it twice. Now, because we're also doing everything in one pass, however, I expect that our functions, the second time we visit it, will find nothing relevant to do. They might error out on something. That was what I was going after. Now that seems so good. And hopefully it's still making sense to people. So let me save that. Let me have a quick once over in here. posture false. We're doing very minimal stuff. Everything has been saved. Yes. The moment of truth. 1 hour and 37 minutes. And I'm still in doubt whether we have accomplished a lot or not much at all. Who knows? I'm gonna run everything at once. So once for the leg, once for these, once for the god node. Let me say before I do that, hopefully this is not a messed up scene. Let's save another version as well, just in case. All right. So, no errors. It's a good start. Can I delete, like remove it? Yes, I can. So I can undo it. Oops. And can I... Sorry, I was lost in my own mind for a second because no commands to redo. I was checking that the undo works. Like global, like all. That's just part of the script that's being run, I believe. Ah, it's printing delete objects. That's okay. Did we do it? Did we successfully de-guide a rig? He's still, like, the FK is getting left behind, which I suspect is normal. That's an artifact of the de-guiding that we'll need to fix. Its buffer is probably not being hooked up as it should. The IK seems to work. We probably have the foot switch to FK. So that's good. The next thing to do will be fixing that foot. That is still working. All the guide elements have disappeared. This is still working. Now the last check will be like component. If you folks have questions, please start asking them now, because I reckon this is where we wanted it to be. Okay, we'll need to check a couple of things as we use this, but the only artifact we have that we need to look into is the fact that the FK is being left behind. And I feel very strongly about it being just an issue with the component, to be honest. I don't think that it's an issue with their script. All right. So do we have any questions? Because this wraps up the getting the script done kind of thing. Long and belabored, lots of debugging, but I am not unhappy with this stream, I have to admit. I kind of like it when stuff comes together like this. Now we have the foot to finish and we have that to fix. And then we're just gonna look at exporting the components and dealing with the symmetry, which is probably just one stream. And then we'll bring in some geo and do the binding, get somebody to animate these for us, and move on to profiling. I don't know if we want to optimize the components as well. After the profiling, we might have a look at that. I suspect that we've done things already in such a way that there's not going to be a lot to optimize. So we could probably swap some things artificially. Anyway, that's for another day. Do we have any questions while I dig through the buffer for the FK having been displaced? We don't seem to have any questions. I'm okay with that. So this right now is inheriting straight from the guy. So yes, we might have a genuine plug swap, or we might not actually, because these guide heat matrix, yeah, no, we do. Because once these, I sound undecided, don't I? No, it's probably just gonna go to another save node sort of scenario. Yeah. Could do it a couple different ways. Anyway. We'll look at it. I reckon that might get us our next to swap plug thingy. Not something you covered today. Couldn't figure out how to make stretchy legs work with the IK pop limiting in this setup. Is there an easy method? I mean, easy can be subjective. Our expression is pretty simple. So if you want stretchy legs, you have two ways you can do them fundamentally. One is right now, and we do have that. So let me fish that. Let me fish for that. In our config parameters, we have femur and tibia length. As we're guided, you know, they come from us moving these things around. Unguided, you could set them up. So you can affect those. Now, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. Our limit, which, yeah, we do have implemented here, comes from those factors at an angle. And those should be going into, what happened to this graph? Doesn't matter. That's why you have throwaway graphs. That stuff, where is the expression? That's and that stuff comes from over here. So if you want to have some factor where you go, as these moves away, I am gonna allow these tibia. So if you want the simplest possible way to do forward kind of stretching, you reduce this angle a little bit. Ours is pretty conservative. This is a very aggressively saving our back. You could say, hey, up to this limit. So let's actually get pen and mischief for a second. All right. So you could look at this distance and basically go, okay, if this is longer than the sum of these two items by that sign, then because we're preloading it before solving, you could go, okay, I am gonna allow you up to here. So for this stretch here, give me the other color. This stretch here, I'm gonna allow you, and this is, sorry, let me go for that. This is gonna be, you know, 1.0 and up to a factor of 1.2, so a stretch factor of 1.2. You're gonna say, okay, as you've broken past this point, your tibia and femur are the same length, so that you get this nice computation. As you enter here and up to here, I am gonna allow you to stretch the tibia and femur by, you know, whatever this difference that I'm at is, so that as you extend that IK, you know, those legs get here, they hit the angular limit, and then you stretch those bones away in their length. I can't quite do it, but you get the idea. So that they reach that point by stretching, then past that point, you enforce the limit as you have been doing before. Now, you kind of have to do a little bit of work with that, because you want to basically stretch the hypotenuse of that triangle, maybe keep that angle, and then get these two new lengths to go out to the tibia and femur, if that makes sense. It is not necessarily going to be a straight up, you know, multiply them by whatever factor. It is, you know, not too hard to do, but yeah. So you stretch the hypotenuse, you redo your tibia and femur until that hypotenuse is, you know, only whatever the limit is. And what goes on with that is that you can also change these. Instead of doing the angular thing that we've been doing so far, you can change this to a linear quantity, basically, instead of an angular quantity. because if you are recomputing these sides based on what is happening to that hypotenuse, then you know, that angle is basically just your limit angle. So while the hypotenuse is less than your max length, then that angle is what you figure out by knowing these two lengths. If your hypotenuse is between, you know, whatever you have deemed the acceptable stretch factor to be, you kind of keep that angle. You don't need to compute it. You keep it. That's your lock angle. And you want to recompute this length. And once you're past that point, then your triangle is pretty much solved. You have a fixed solution for once you exceed that point. Hopefully that makes sense. That's one way to do it. You can do it several other ways. And the other thing you can do is if you don't lock that angle, which is what a lot of people do, that's kind of a way to do a soft IK, is if you allow for that angle to have some give instead of locking it there and just lengthening the bones, which will get you something like that, you allow it to distend slowly, then yes, it will push the knee forward as it stretches. And that's kind of the tricky bit. So that's what I was getting to. If you don't want that, so this is for small amounts. If you need to do very big amounts, then it gets tricky. You need to affect that angle. And at that point, what you want to do is basically go, okay, in my default configuration, this is going to be my height. This is my hypotenuse. This is going to be my height. As I stretch, I don't want to keep the angle constant anymore, so I don't have an angular constraint. I want a linear factor and a linear constraint, which is going to be my height. So as you go through here, you keep that height the same, and you figure out, you know, your new angles. Now, for these to not do weird things, you also have to keep the ratio between these two parts the same, if that makes sense to you. So for very small amounts, you can let the knee push forward a little bit. You can even just fudge the numbers a little bit. Like you find magic numbers to relax that angle. You might get some drift or stuff like that. If you want a stretchy IK that considers that doesn't have push on the knee, that can go 1-2 is actually pretty big. It's very noticeable. Or you know, you want a whatever twice the length stretch IK, then you have to solve these for two triangles where you have your hypotenuse, you get your new, and this is getting super messy, but you have your hypotenuse. You know that given an angular constraint, it has a max height that is that much. You know how much the projected femur and the projected tibia are. So these are relatively easy to figure out. And they are the ratio between the hypotenuse and the femur and the tibia. So as you stretch, as you go into the stretch state, for however long you need to, you basically take these ratios, you reuse them again, you take this height, plump it in there, you know, that height stays the same, and then you can find these. So your ratio to the hypotenuse becomes one of the sides, your height remains constant, and you can make it a constant if you want. If you have the base length, like, you can literally make that a constant. And then your job is to figure out these lengths, basically, and that can actually go into the IK solver. And because your system is constrained at source, you're constraining the length, basically, you don't need to do the angular constraint inside the system, because the way you're sourcing it is not, it's just not gonna pop, because the moment you reach that linear stretch, it is gonna go into this mode where the angle doesn't get solved anymore. The angle is imposed on the system by solving for the height and these two lengths. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, it's not necessarily something from this stream, but I say that we would eventually go into it. I don't know if we'll have the time. If anything, like, this is a pretty good exercise if you want to go at it. It's not that hard. It's like, it's harder to explain it like this than it is to do it. If you manage to do the rest without literally copying and pasting what I've done, I would say this is probably, depending on how tough you found the rest of what we've done, you know, 1 or 2 afternoons of exercise, but it will get to pretty decent stretch AK, and it plays nicely with expressions if you're not at that point where you can comfortably write a C++ node. It's also a good introduction to solving the same system for, you know, different parameters. Do we have anything else? I don't think so. Yeah, I'm gonna keep what I got. I reckon we're, you know, long stream, hopefully not boring. Slow start, but I kind of like what we got. I reckon eventually we're gonna turn these into a plugin and we're gonna instrument things a little bit. But these print key object component name, do it. We know this works. We have absolute faith in these. Now key obs, that bothers me a bit. Key objects from container. Okay, let's not delete that. Let's add a to-do in there. So I suspect that by the component name here, we just fish from this general thing. Key objects from container will return as many things, and then inside here we're looping over something that is roughly synchronized to that, and by using the component, you know, we can find the stuff we want. But I reckon this needs cleaning up, but that's it. All right, gotta call it. Thanks everybody for watching, especially you folks on stream. It's always great to have company. And if you're following the stream, I'll see you tomorrow. If you're following on YouTube, I will see you whenever you play the next video. Have a good day, everybody. And let's reiterate that note. Remember, if you want atomic math nodes, github.com/sergey-k is published this. Thank you and see you.